What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back for my second review of the weekend. And considering this is a big one that came out during this past weekend, I figured, you know what? I've reviewed their last two albums. I figured, why not keep that trend going, and let's review the new one. The newest release from nu metal pioneers Korn, and it's called Requiem. I don't feel like I need to go through a brief history lesson of Korn. I think most people who are watching this channel knows about Korn, or are fans of Korn even. Like for me, I'm a fan of Korn. I do have a bit of a soft spot for what they do. Mainly the only album of theirs I have in my collection is the Greatest Hits, because like really, at least back in the old days, it was the hits that did it for me. A couple of the non-hits were good, but yeah, I kind of grew out of Korn after high school because I just got into so many other bands and they just kind of fell under the radar for me for a while. However, their last two albums, Serenity of Suffering and The Nothing, I thoroughly enjoyed them for what they are. So does this kind of like momentum train that they've been going for the past couple albums, does it continue with this? Well, let's find out. So we kick things off with the track Forgotten. You get this dissonant and chunky riff to kind of get things started. Even some psychedelic clean guitars going on in the background of the verses before you get into a heavy chorus. And even Jonathan Davis's voice gets somber at times during the choruses. And even after the second chorus leading into the bridge, it gets dark and heavy in a big way before we finish things off with the third and final chorus. Moving on to Let the Dark Do the Rest. Some creepy ambience going on in the background, as well as the clean guitars kind of further embellishing that ambience and that atmosphere. And then into another chunky riff coming in right off the bat. Despite the heavier riffing on this track, the chorus definitely helped make this song feel more of like a radio-friendly track. Although after the chorus you get some growls coming in, and I have to say, I do enjoy Jonathan Davis's death growls. I feel like if he wasn't in Korn, I think he could have been a solid death metal vocalist, I'll be honest, because his growls are pretty strong on this album. And even the clean vocals on this track definitely help carry more soul and emotional weight throughout the track, and that was really the highlight of this song, was the vocal performance. Start the Healing, the guitars fade in at the beginning to lead into another thick riff, and as we enter the chorus, the vocals kind of go back and forth between his cleans and the growls, and the majority of this track has more of that radio-friendly style that Korn has done in the past, and the guitars on the bridge go back and forth between being clean and heavy, but there is a cool breakdown to bring this song to a close. Following that, we get Lost in the Grandeur. Almost a little thrashy at the beginning, though it's brief, and it kind of went from that to a bit of like a start-stop, which kind of made this song feel a little disjointed at the beginning, and even some odd like pick scratching going on, which I thought they kind of were doing that a little bit too much here on this song. But once again, the clean vocals helping to showcase more of that soul and emotion from a couple of tracks prior, and it goes to show how Jonathan's voice has really developed over the years. And the coolest part of the song was the bass line in the bridge. I mean, Fieldy is such a good bassist. I mean, I will not have anything bad to say about him as a bassist. He knows how to play some grooves, some cool funky stuff at times, and some heavy, nasty shit at times. Following that, we get into Disconnect, another heavy riff to kind of get things started right off the bat. Some dark squealing guitars playing along to the bass line, but it was tastefully done to make it feel creepy and haunting with the atmosphere. The chorus gets heavy and even a little bit epic, which is something I usually don't really hear a lot of people say about Korn, really. And then the bridge once again gets intense with pretty much every aspect of the instrumentation and the vocal delivery. Following that track, we get into Hopeless and Beaten. Now, this is an interesting song. Call me nuts if you want, But this is maybe the most doom-laden track that I think Korn has ever done. It's slow, it's foreboding, murky, and even the growling vocals leading into the chorus kind of gives the track a bit of a Death Doom vibe. Again, call me nuts, but that's just from what I heard. Even a little slight nod to prog, even, because the verses, they were mostly being played in like 3/4 time signature. And I thought it was a really cool track. And even the doomy breakdown, the lead into the bridge, carrying forth the feeling of dread and hopelessness. No pun intended. So far, this was my favorite track of the album, just because you had a couple different elements coming in. You had a little bit of prog with the verses being in 3/4 time signature. A little more doomy, and even a little bit of a Death Doom vibe because of Jonathan's growls going in, leading into the chorus sections of the track. So yeah, this is probably one of the most unique Korn songs I've heard in quite a while. Penance Tesoro, another fade-in intro before we get into a nice groovy riff that definitely sounds like classic Korn. While the clean guitars provide more of that psychedelic vibe again, the bass is really what was carrying the verses throughout. And the chorus here is perhaps the most somber chorus out of the entire album to me. And even the bridge kind of showing that balance of intensity and the feeling of sorrow. Again, no pun intended. My Confession, interesting riff going on with some weird dive bombs happening, and the chorus showcasing more of that dark anger. And even Jonathan's voice gets downright dark through like going into like a gothic low note, the growls, and his standard cleans. But this track definitely did feel like a quarantine track in terms of the lyrical content, and even the structure of this song kind of felt a little off to me. And then we get to the final track, Worst is on its way. More of that weird ambient noise, and the guitars are doing some weird shit leading into the main riff to start this song off. The chorus, though, carries forth some despair and darkness even further. And we even get the classic Jonathan Davis beatbox from the old days on this track, on the bridge and even towards the end. And some acoustic guitars even show up to build to the final chorus. And it ends with a cool little bass lick and the squealy guitars. And that's how we end things. So, overall, does this hold up to the last two albums? In my personal opinion, not really. I'm not saying this album is bad. It's just a few tracks, especially towards the end, it just felt like, because, I mean, to follow the song Hopeless and Beaten, which, like I said, was probably the most unique Korn song I've heard in a while because of the different aspects they brought to the table. A little bit of doom, a little bit of death with the vocals, a little bit of prog with the time signature shifts. But then after that, it's kind of like they reverted back to their old days on some of these tracks, and it's like, I like Korn whenever they're exploring their sound and not really going to like the well of what worked in the past but doesn't quite work today. Especially the last two tracks, I just felt like too many of like those squealy guitars, squealy dive bombs going on. It just was too much for me, and those two were definitely not my favorites. But the majority of this album was serviceable to really good, like Let the Dark Do the Rest. Even though it had that more radio-friendly chorus, I liked the track for the vocal performance. Same with Lost in the Grandeur. But Hopeless and Beaten was definitely the standout for me. But other than that, it's like the rest of the album just felt kind of hit or miss to me. And then again, Korn is an acquired taste. Then again, nu metal as a whole does get quite a lot of shit, but Korn was definitely always one of the few bands in nu metal I actually did enjoy some material from. But I don't know, I just really liked where they were going on the last two albums with that heavier, darker tone. Here it just kind of felt like a watered down version of the last two albums, but just made a little more radio friendly, and it just didn't quite work for me. It's not a bad album. I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10. It's not bad, it's just a lot of the songs just felt kind of samey to me, but there were some unique tracks, like I said, with Let the Dark Do the Past, Lost in the Grandeur, Start the Healing was cool, but Hopeless and Beaten is the standout of the album because of, like I said, all those different elements coming together for the track. So yeah, it's a 7 out of 10. Yeah, it's, who knows, maybe it'll get better the more I listen to it, but this so far is not anywhere near a favorite of mine, and that's why it's a 7 out of 10. But what did you guys think of Requiem by Korn? Let me know in the comments section below. And until next time, horns high, and I will see you in the next one. Better go in hell. What? Oh my god! That was a fail! Oh my god! Fuck that! Oh my god, I am such an idiot! That was the dumbest thing I've ever done in this fucking game! Why? What was that? Was I colorblind for a second? What was that?